Narcissistic relationships. What really happens behind closed doors is the topic of conversation today. So, whether you are currently in a narcissistic relationship or healing from one, the information that we're going to cover today is going to help you make the decision that is right for you and is going to energize you if you are healing from one. Now, without further ado, I will introduce you to my guest, Rowdy from the Rowdy Method. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story with us.
It's my honor.
All right, so I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into this awesome content.
Well, I'm Roddy. I'm an intuitive soul coach, and I also am a podcast host of Coffee Talks with Roddy. I have created a business that allows me to help other people connect to the truth of who they are and really heal and thrive in their life. And it's a shit ton of fun. I love my life. I love what I do. It's been a lot of work to create it, but I'm here and I'm very grateful.
Rowdy, let's first talk about the definition of a narcissist. Like what is a narcissist?
So a narcissist, to be honest, like there's a broad spectrum of narcissism, right? And there are people who are on a very extreme end of it, but narcissism really is an inability to feel and like have empathy for other people. So narcissists really, they're not intentionally trying to hurt other people, but they are unaware of their path of destruction because it's all about them. They have the grandiose ideas of how to live, of how to be. They like to be worshipped. It's this way of being.
And even though the narcissist is not on purpose doing it, that's even worse because they don't know. And you're like, what the hell, right? So yeah, let's share your story. How was it? Because I really do like that behind closed doors, because that's where everything happens. These people are awesome. These people are charismatic. These people are awesome. You see them and they're like, woo, woo, woo. How can you get rid of that man?
Yeah. So my ex was a drummer and was a hairdresser and a makeup artist, and he was straight. So we actually met when I was in my early 20s and we were friends, and then we ended up dating in my late 20s. And he swept me off my feet because he was so charismatic. And, within the first month of us dating, we went to Paris because he won third in the world for hair, right? Like it was this whirlwind experience that wrapped me in. And we lived in Capitol Hill in Seattle, and we had all these, we went to all the shows and all the restaurants, and we knew everyone, and like the parties we had, everything was bigger than life. My life with him was bigger than life. And I thought I was going to get married and we were going to have a family. And I just was like, wow, like this is what I've been looking for. Well, we ended up being together for 5 years. And in that time, I completely... Oh, sorry.
No. I was like, oh my gosh, 5 years. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. We were together for 5 years. And what happened in that time is I completely lost who I was. I completely lost my soul. I didn't even know what my belief system was. I didn't even know how to speak my own words. I didn't know how to order at a restaurant. I had shaved my head. I was, drinking myself to oblivion. And I was so inauthentic in my life because I just was surviving. I was just surviving in my life. And he just thought I was an emotional hot mess. And like, I couldn't handle my shit. And, he couldn't, like, we just were not a good match for each other. But I didn't know how to actually, move through it and ask for what I want, because he was always at the forefront of everything. He was always the star. He was always the one who was fully, the one in the relationship that was celebrated. So when I decided to end it, what happened was people were shocked out of their mind. They had no clue that, I would actually end it.
Why?
So
Because he was so awesome, right?
yeah, everyone thought he was so awesome.
Right. And it was this like, oh my gosh, perfectly. Is that your dog calling you?
Yeah, yeah, she's barking.
You guys, she has a little cute little dog there. Okay, so that's what happens, right? When it's like you're in this type of relationships, the narcissist is so good at keeping his appearance and making the other person look like it is their fault that these things are
Yeah,
happening. How were
everything was my fault.
Yeah, so let's talk about how were the conflicts. How did that go about? Give us a little example in this scenario about how that went.
So conflicts were terrible. Usually they were laced in alcohol and they were not spoken about. Like I have this very interesting visual of one night I drank so much because he was an alcoholic. So I would just do what he would do because I didn't have my own voice. And it was either go out and party or stay home, and he wouldn't come home till 3 a.m. anyway. So I was in such a rebellious place for myself because I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to show up. So one night I drank so much that I like said every mean thing I could say to him and how he had hurt me and everything, like how much I hated him and everything like that. And the next day he didn't say a word. He didn't say a word to me about it. He wouldn't talk to me about it. So what ended up happening is we were together for 2 more years.
How
And
did that
like
even happen though?
we didn't talk about anything. We did not talk about anything. And here's the crazy thing. I know that people may be judging me if they see this, but whatever, I don't really care. I actually thought about cheating on him. I had multiple opportunities, and our couples therapist was like, you need to be flirting with other men to get his attention.
What?
Yeah. His therapist, he chose her. And so
He
I
probably
had
told her to
opportunities.
tell you that.
But he didn't even notice. He didn't even notice. So I was
So
like,
you
if I
did.
cheat on him, it's going to be about me cheating on him, not about how big of a jerk he is. So that's why I didn't cheat on him. Bottom line.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so okay, so we have a question. So are they subgroup of sociopath? No empathy or technically different?
I mean, narcissists aren't necessarily sociopaths. I'm sure that there are sociopaths that are narcissists, but I don't think that they're like necessarily the same. You know, when I think back to my ex and how he's not a bad person. I don't think that he's a bad person. I think that he is completely unaware of all of his traumas and he's not willing to work through it, right? So, because narcissists don't think there's anything wrong with them. So why would they ever change?
Right.
Why would they
Right.
ever fix anything, right? So
Right.
you're with someone who's not willing to grow and change and accept responsibility. So the guy I was with, we never talked about anything that we fought over. We would fight and then we would never talk about it.
Wow. I mean, like you and you just stay there, right? You just stay there, even though and we're gonna talk about empath and narcissists are drawn to each other. And I want you to please introduce a term for those of the audience who do not know what an empath is. What is an empath?
So an empath is someone who feels empathy, who feels emotions, who feels the weight of the room and the collective. So empaths are people that feel everything on a really deep level. So when they're in relationships, what ends up happening, and this is true with all my clients and everyone I talk to who's an empath, is their default mode is to hold space and be compassionate for people because they feel their feelings. So they want to fix it. They want to help them feel better. So a lot of time people love to come to empaths because they're amazing friends to have. because they're always there to hold space for you. They're always there. They're usually intuitive. They usually have insights into things. But what happens is empaths get really drained because they don't know how to protect themselves energetically.
Can you imagine that? Being an empath, you guys, can you imagine that, right? Being an empath, feeling all of these feelings, all the feels, right? And having somebody next to you feel absolutely nothing.
Like, people can be narcissistic and not feel, right? So a lot of times when people are referring to narcissism, that's why, like, on the internet, people are like, everyone's a narcissist, but that's not true. It's just narcissism basically is this idea that someone cannot feel. They don't feel what you're going through. And so a lot of the time they don't care unless they fake it, or there's loyalty, or there's a belief system wrapped around it that they'll show up for family and friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that what you just said, faking it, right? Because they don't have empathy, they cannot relate to other people's feelings, but they try faking it based on how society responds to something that they do. But they're not feeling it. So what happens is, right? What happens is that they get into a situation and you see them handling the situation with empathy. But if you give them another situation, or they're put on another situation that's kind of similar, but it's not the same, they won't know what to do. Because they're not feeling it, right?
Yeah.
So here's another comment that came in, right? This is from a lady, and she writes, this is a situation that happened to her. She writes, I asked my ex for a break. And after much resistance on his part, he said, thank you for allowing me this break. I really needed it. Rowdy, I'm going to send that to you, babes.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm also an energy coach and a mindset coach. Okay. So everything is perspective, and we all have our own stories. We all tell our own stories about a situation, right? We could all be in the same room and have completely different ideas and perspectives of what happened. So in that situation, I feel like there's a level of miscommunication and manipulation that might be happening, where they're not really listening to what you're asking, and they're not really seeing you, and they're not able to validate you, because it's all about them, right? And whether the intention is to be hurtful on that or not, it can feel hurtful, because it's like, what? Like, you weren't even listening. That's not I'm the one who asked for that, right? And that's like toxic communication. Because when you're an empath and you're in a relationship with a narcissist, right? When you're a feeler and you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't feel, what happens is you start to shut down, because you don't know how to communicate what you want. So there's a lot of miscommunication that happens in those types of relationships. So I'm sorry that that's what the response was, but I'm going to put the power back in your hands. And if you're asking for a break from this person, I would highly suggest you to run the other way and start your healing journey, because they will never change. They'll never change. You're the person who gets to change. So if you're sick of it yet, then you'll leave.
And the thing is, right, just like for you, for example, you had this big blowout with your ex, and still then you stayed with him for 2 more years.
Yes.
It takes courage, and it takes so much courage to leave a relationship, because one, there's so many things that go through our minds. Okay, especially because, like you said, your own beliefs, you didn't know where they went. You're like, okay, is this me, or is that him? Where is it? Where am I? Right? So you didn't even know who you were. So at that point, you're believing that perhaps the problem is you and not him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I knew it was him, but I also knew that it was me, and I didn't know how to take care of myself in the situation. And, what's really interesting is yes, I was in it for 5 years. And for a while, I carried shame and guilt around, like, I should have known better. I should have known better. But here's the thing, is I didn't know that I deserved better. I thought that this is just how relationships were. And I thought that relationships were about struggle, and I thought they were about compromise. But let me share something with you. This is, I speak about people being fated in our lives, and we have, earth angels. I'm going to refer to them as earth angels. So people that pop in our life that deliver a message to us, and we never see them again. So I had an experience with an earth angel 5 years into my relationship, where my ex and I had come back from New York. We went to go visit some friends, and he was almost 40 at the time and got so wasted that he was abusive and pressured sexually, all this stuff. And I was like, I cannot believe I'm with a man who treats me this poorly. But I was like, I have no clue how to get out of it. So we come back from our trip to New York. That was a total disaster. And he was remodeling our kitchen, and it was a whole disaster in our home. So I went to a bar up the street to have a glass of champagne and a salad. And I'm sitting there, I'm all sweaty from a workout class. I'm crying. I'm just a hot mess. I don't know anything about anything. And as I'm leaving, this guy, this earth angel, hands me a note. And at first I was like, ugh, I'm getting hit on right now. This is really, I don't like this, right? It's not what I was looking for. And he's like, I just want you to read this when you leave. And I was like, okay. So I walk outside, and I had a scooter at the time. So I sit on the scooter and I open this note. And the note said, just sitting there watching you eat salad totally lit up my day. You are the most beautiful person I've ever seen. And I hope you know that you are worth it. No name, no number, never saw the guy ever again. The next day I woke up, I broke up with my boyfriend. 2 weeks later, I moved out, and I never looked back. And my life is forever different. And now I'm with a man who's empath, intuitive, loving, emotional, sees me, validates me. It's been a journey.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's so great that you got to that point. And that's so awesome that you got that note. Because, right? How cool is that? Yeah. That you got a message, your earth angel, never saw him again. This is for you, baby girl. You know what you have to do already. Go and do it. And we have those, and sometimes we ignore them for one reason or another, sometimes because we're not ready, we don't know, we have fear of the unknown, right? But if we follow that, especially on a relationship like this, because we know the relationship is not healthy, right? But we just don't have the courage to step out. Right. So
but here's the thing, so many people, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so many people are in unhealthy relationships that, to me, it normalized it. So, getting around people who are actually in healthy, thriving relationships is also what helped me be like, oh, you don't talk to your partner that way. You don't treat them that way. I had no clue.
Yeah, and that is a super important point, because I had another episode where we talked about toxic relationships, and the lady was saying relationships are not supposed to be hard. They're not supposed to be hard, and I'm like, well, a lot of people say that relationships are hard, right? So there's this okay, are they hard or they're not? And there's all this gibberish in the world that until we know who we are and what we want, will we know and not have somebody else define what we want for our lives, So it's just so important for us to know that, my people. So important for us to get to know who we are, get to know what we want out of a relationship, not what other people want. Right? Not what we saw on the movies, not what we saw or heard on a song, but reality, our values, what we want, what thrives us, what drives us, what makes us happy. And then we can find somebody else whose values are going to match ours. And then we define, right? We define our own relationships, right? It's our relationship. Healing is the best comeback. Right on. So let me ask you this. Speaking of healing, Rowdy, how was your healing?
How was it?
Yeah, like the healing process, how you, when you first, because you know, now you don't have this person, and even though, right, it wasn't a good situation, it's still a loss.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, and he moved on quickly. He had a girlfriend in less than a month and then got married like 6 months later. So
Jesus.
for the first year and a half after it was over, it was really hard for me, really hard. I drank my feelings. I was overstimulated all the time. I was such a mess. I had no self-worth. And I like, the universe did not allow men to come into my life for a year and a half, which now I'm grateful for.
Right.
But at the time I was like, there's something wrong with me, right? Because I was so validated by men that I had to break that. And through my healing journey over the last 5, almost 6 years, is that I've become completely self-validated in my life. I am the person who loves myself. I am the person who makes myself happy. I am the person who brings out the creativity and the joy. My partner doesn't do it. My friends don't do it. My family doesn't do it. I am a self-made, excited person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love who I am because no one else can do it for me. And what I realized was, when I can validate myself, I don't need other people. I choose to have them in my life. I choose to be in this relationship. I've changed how I show up in relationships. You know, I'm not very needy. I'm very independent. I handle everything on my own, financially, emotionally, all of it. And sometimes that's hard for my partner.
Right. Right. I'm so happy because getting to the point where you don't need outside validation. Oh, Jesus, Lord. Happiness, right? I mean, like bliss.
It's amazing.
Heaven.
It's bliss.
Yeah.
It's bliss.
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus, Lord. We have a comment for you, baby. Joe, what's up? Joe writes, well, he's the problem. She just a new victim about your ex.
Oh my gosh. Joe, you are so right. I have to tell you, it was so interesting what happened, because when, he met her a month later and then they got engaged, and I actually had a dream about it before he got engaged. So I knew he was going to get engaged. So he got engaged, and then they got divorced because she filed domestic abuse against him. And still no one in his world thought that it was him. And I was like, this is why all of his ex-girlfriends are crazy, because he would, we would all fall in love with him, and then he would show his true colors, and then we would all be like a shell of ourselves when he left us. And so, yeah, I mean, now he's got another girl and they're doing a hotel somewhere, and I was like, you do you, man. Good luck. Have fun. I'm going to be over here whipping up magic, thriving in my own world, not leaving a trail of destruction.
I mean,
so to me, that's worth it.
And and that's the thing, because when they leave such a mess to be picked up, and on their side, right? And they has nothing. They're good, right? They have not a problem. The problem was you. The problem was a partner. Oh yeah, my crazy girlfriend. You know what she did to me, right? And then he will probably even volunteer you to be in the show, My Crazy Ex.
You know what, though? I actually had some moments where I was like, because, I'm a Scorpio and I was raised with brothers, and I can really chew a guy up and spit him out if I need to. And so I had these moments where I was like, how am I going to behave? What am I going to do? Because I didn't want to be identified as crazy like all of his other exes. And there were a lot of them. And so I actually had this moment where I was like, I could fuck up his world, or I could thrive in my own. And so I decided to thrive in my own and move past it.
Yes.
Because that's the choice. That's the empowerment.
Yes. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, that's it. we heal, right? Because we don't, like, people go, what, aren't you, and I'm pretty sure you got this also, oh my gosh, aren't you feeling some sort of way because he already got somebody else, right? And did that bother you? Or it was like, yo, I know him, I don't care who he's with, and well, like Joe said, right, she's the victim here, I'm out? Or how do you?
Well, I actually thought that he was asexual or gay by the time our relationship was over. And because he's such a wackadoo, which whatever, like, he's so all over the place. Like, his jeans were tighter than mine. And like, he had a lot of feminine energy. So like, he could have easily been gay. And so, when I found out he was with another woman, and then I saw a photo of her and they had dated in high school and all of this stuff, it was really hard for me. It was really hard for me. It was like, because he cried like the last 2 weeks when I was living with him after I had broken up with him. He cried in my arms about how much work he needed to do. He showed his authentic self, and he was like, I am like, don't even know who I am and all of this. But what did he do? He got back in the pattern, got back in the saddle, got back in the relationship, and never dealt with his stuff ever.
And at that moment, you being an empath, wow, like, that probably took a lot out of you not to give him another chance.
Oh yeah, he didn't want another chance with me. He told me to fuck off.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing, is like, we were together for 5 years, then I broke up with him, ended it finally. And he was like, I'll be in your wedding. He's like, I can't wait for the next man you're going to marry. Oh like, I'm so happy for you. I love you. And then he met this girl, and then literally we met for lunch one day, and he was like, I need you to just like fuck off and get out of my life forever. Like, I don't ever want to speak to you again.
What?
And that was really painful.
Of course.
That was really painful.
Because you feel. Right?
Yeah,
you feel.
I felt all of it. And I had so much healing to do. Because you witness them going off and being okay when really they're not, but they appear that way. Like, everyone was like, oh my God, he's so happy. This girl is amazing for him. All of the things. And I had to heal, and it took a long time.
Aw, but look at you now.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm like, now it's awesome. It's great content.
If you would like to be a guest on the show, you can reach me at officially-unofficialtv@gmail.com. And if you are liking what you're watching, feel free to click that like button and click like and follow on my page so that you can be notified of more awesome content. Now, my love, back to you. We're still on healing, right? What are some of the things that we could do to help ourselves in the healing process?
Well, that's a huge part of why I created my business, the Roddy Method. And I do soul coaching with people, because healing is really reconnecting back to your soul. So my belief is that our souls are here to have experiences, and we have relationships, and we have traumas, and we have all these things that we experience here on earth. And a lot of us lose ourselves along the way. But when we're awoken, right, usually through pain and discomfort, loss, what happens is we start to reawaken to the old version of ourselves. Our soul starts to reawaken, and we get to remember that we actually are deserving of all the abundance. Everything that we want, we can create, but we have to be the creators of it. So in my healing journey, a lot of what I do with my clients and what I did with myself is I worked on my mindset. I worked on what I was telling myself. I worked on how I was shaping the story in my life, right? Was I playing a victim? Was I always blaming other people? Or was I taking responsibility for who I was and what I wanted, right? Like my journey also was about faith, was about, I was raised in a Christian home, and I'm not religious and I'm not Christian. But when I talk about faith, I mean trusting in the process that there's something bigger than myself, that there's things that are fated in my life. So through this healing journey, I had created a lash business up in Seattle. Was making 6 figures in my business because I took all the fire and hate from that relationship and poured it into my business. But I was still so shallow and lonely because I thought that money and having a yoga body and having all the trips and everything was going to help me heal. And what I really needed to do was walk away from all of that. So I left all of that and moved to Austin. And that's when I really started to figure out that I could create whatever I wanted for my life as long as I quieted what everyone else thought was possible, what everyone thought I should do, and start manifesting and journaling and doing oracle and divination tools and connecting with my soul and trusting myself above anyone's word. And now I'm in a place where I trust myself above anyone, any system, any belief. And then I run it through my filter of, is this going to work for me? And it's allowed me to really have a life that feels so liberating and freeing.
Aw, Rowdy, that's so awesome.
Yeah, well, and with healing, like that's all possible for us, right? So these relationships, these hard things that we have to go through, if you can lean into it and ask yourself, what was in it for you? Like, what did you get out of that situation? What was your soul trying to communicate to you? And when you learn what it is, you're not going to repeat it. And if you don't learn what it is, then you're going to keep repeating it.
Yes. And that is the hard lesson to learn, but it is so worth it. Because look at you, you found it, right? You're like, okay, so you know what? I'm going to take all this energy right now and I'm just going to make all this money. And all your focus went on this because that's what you thought it was. And that was still searching. And then you realized it and you're like, okay, no, that's not it. And everything is in you. Everything is in you, especially when you figured out that the validation is in you. Nobody else needs to validate you. Anybody will have their own opinion about you because they're entitled to their opinion. But from there to that, making it to you for validation or you searching for it, it's just, that is toxic in and of itself. You know, toxic for us.
Well, because what's their opinion?
Right.
Like, what's their opinion, right? Like, who cares if they have an opinion about your life?
And I
have opinions about their lives, but like it doesn't need, you know.
And I do think, and you guys watching can write your comments as well. I do think that one of the toughest and one of the things that hold us back in these type of relationships is, what are people gonna say? Especially if there are children involved. Oh my gosh, because why? Sometimes depending on how, I don't know how masterful, if that's the word, the narcissist is, he's gonna keep his stuff behind closed doors with his partner. His children are not gonna know. Nobody's gonna know. The only person that's going to know is the one he sleeps with, closed doors. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anybody, whenever you go on, oh my gosh, I'm leaving this person. What the? And then he's a good man. Right? So they're going to think all of that. So it makes it harder to step out of a relationship like this. But we have to know, you have to know that you're not crazy. You are experiencing everything that you are experiencing. They're not. So you have to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own experience here, right? And so if we're giving power to someone else, and, you know, children is a whole nother level. I mean, there's a reason I don't have children, because I never wanted to be tied to another human that way, to be honest. Even in a good, healthy relationship, I'm not interested in that. And so I can't fully speak to that. But what I will say is that being authentic and being real with yourself is the best thing you can teach your children, instead of staying in a relationship for the sake of the family. Don't do that.
Amen to that. And I agree with that, because what are we teaching our children?
Yeah. You want to teach them to be strong and their feelings are okay, and that they can walk away from relationships even if there is marriage. I know there's all these values around, like, you get married and it has to be forever, and there's shame around divorce, but that's just a belief system that people subscribe to. You don't have to believe that about marriage. You don't have to believe that about relationships. You can come and go in relationships, and sometimes we choose blindly, and sometimes we need to get out of it, and that's okay. If I was married, I would be divorced at this point, and I would have no issues around it.
Right. I mean, because why be in a relationship that is just toxic? What are you giving? What are you going to give to yourself? What are you going to give to the world? What are you going to offer? You, Rowdy, couldn't have offered anything when you were in that... right? You couldn't have offered anything to anybody, not even to yourself, because you didn't know who you were.
Oh, yeah. And I was so needy, and I was so desperate for people's attention and for them to hear me. But I would just sit there and I would complain about my life because I needed someone to save me. And when I realized that no one was going to save me is when I stopped complaining about it. And I actually was like, fine, I'm going to do it. And you know what? I made $1,000 a month. I had no clue how I was going to afford to live on my own. But I will tell you, you have angels, you have a universe, you have power, you have assistance and support. So if you need it, you can ask on it. So I manifested a safe haven, and I was able to afford it, and I was able to bring in clients. I had no clue. I had no security leaving the relationship. He owned the home. He owned everything. I had nothing of my own. But to me, I was like, I'd rather sleep out on the street than be in this for one more minute. And that's when the universe showed up in a massive way. That's why I have a huge faith. That's why I manifest, I ask, and I take risks, because it works.
Yeah, it does. And for you guys, all right, if you want to get a hold of, you want to manifest and you want to learn more about empath and all of that, how can you use all your power to be able to move forward and claim that which is yours, because you come here to this space with everything you need to be successful in life. You have it, right? You just have to create the space for you to be able to see all of it. Okay, so if you want to reach my guest, we're gonna go right here. This is her Instagram account. Go ahead, Rowdy.
All strategy, my friend. And
look at her, you guys. Her Instagram is so fun, and she creates so many awesome videos, and she talks about a lot of stuff. Her IGTV is great. Let me see. Yes, look at that.
Yeah, I'm a speaker. I love to speak and talk and connect.
Yeah. So, and then of course, you guys, me. If you like what you're watching and you want to watch more topics like this, please feel free to click like and follow on my page so that you can be notified when this awesome content comes up. Also, you can send me an email if you are interested in being a guest on the show, and that is officially-unofficial.tv@gmail.com. Okay, so now, Rowdy, all right, any last minute advice that you can offer our awesome audience about healing, or say if they're still in the relationship and they need that encouragement to leave, right? What kind of advice can you offer to them?
Well, first of all, connect with me. Okay. Connect with me, because I'm in your corner, and I didn't have people in my corner when I was going through this, because there were a lot of people who didn't understand what I was going through. So the other thing that I want you to know is trust that even though you may be in a situation that does not feel good and you don't know how to get yourself out, you are exactly where you are meant to be right now. And trust that you will be able to get yourself out of it. You just need to continue to self-love and validate yourself and know that you are worthy of a relationship that's uplifting and loving and fun and whatever it is that you crave in your relationship. And it's hard work. It's hard work to face yourself and heal, but it's worth it. And you don't have to do it alone. That's why I dance around in my underwear in videos and make it fun, because healing doesn't have to be miserable. It can be fun. It can be expansive. It can be hard. It can be whatever you want it to be. So trust that your process is working for you. Just continue to lean into it. Don't run away from it.
Yeah, amen to that. Amen to that. Let's go to a couple of comments that we have here. Let's see. All right. So J. Allen Rice, great show. Well, thank you so much, my girl. I hope I'm glad you're enjoying that. And then we have Lisa. She writes, great topic. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you guys. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes. And then we have, okay, all right, we have Joe also. He writes, yes, the only way to be. No need for the world to validate you. Nope.
Yeah.
No need for that. Now, we close on the believe in yourself, right? Believe in yourself. Believe that you can do this. Believe that there are resources out there to help you through this. You don't have to do this alone, and it is a process, okay? Once you make that decision to step out of a narcissistic relationship, it will be a healing process. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to know that it happened, and yes, it happened to you, but let me tell you this. You learned what a relationship is not supposed to be like. And you can now define your relationship. But you have to do the work. You have to be there. You have to feel all those feels that come with it. You have to feel lonely. You have to feel anger. You have to feel sad. You have to feel, you have to feel all of it, right? Rowdy, you have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the only
and
way.
no feeling is bad. I mean, even if it feels bad in your body, right? Anger, sadness, it feels uncomfortable in your body. This is where you get to put together, a movement practice, a ritual where you can release the emotion so that it doesn't have to be miserable as you're going through it.
You have to dance in your underwear.
Get crazy.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. You guys, this is my guest right here, Rowdy from the Rowdy Method, and you can find her.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you can find her on her Instagram right here. Anna with Officially Unofficial, where we make your lives easier, one episode at a time. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.